Welcome to a new edition of Jazzy Talk. We are here with the Jazzy Season 6 Brooklyn Auto Call winner, none other than FrankieBFG. What up, Frankie? Thanks for coming on the show.
Bro, it's my pleasure. Anytime I could get a chance to be on a Mutant podcast, I'm fucking there. I'm fucking stoked. I'm pumped right now.
Now that I think about it, you were on the last Jazzy Talk.
Yeah. That was the one before Evo?
It was the one before the finale.
Jazzy.
Yeah.
Jazzy.
Because remember, in Season 5, the Brooklyn Auto Qual was the last Auto Qual.
Right, exactly. Yes. So it's been almost about a year?
Well, it would be less than that. Yeah.
10 months. 10 months, something like that. But yeah, I was on the last one. I want to make this a tradition. As long as you have these Jazzy Talks, I want to be on every one. So that's my goal.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because before we get started, it means a lot. And I probably speak for a lot of people in the scene, for players of your caliber, to continue supporting the game. And not just Jazzy, but just continuing to play the game and being willing to give your time to talk to players, new, old, current, anyone that wants to learn and get better. Because I know that you're one of the players in our scene that has, you're an educator, right? And so the importance of a growth mindset.
Exactly.
And you're one of the players who has that. I can't think of a better, and you and I are big NBA fans, right? And one of the cooler topics has been, who wants to be the face of the NBA, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how appropriate this would be, but like, when I think of like who would be the face of American Third Strike, you would definitely be one of those candidates, because I think, I can't think of any other better representative for our scene than you. So yeah.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, I'm trying to take it all in. I appreciate it, but it just doesn't, it seems very surreal, and I think that's why I kind of go as hard as I do in terms of, talking to people when they ask, and, when they have questions, or, trying to get back to people, whether it be like on Twitter or Discord, whenever they have questions, and or they want me to give them tips. I go hard on that because, I didn't start when the game started. I kind of had a late entry to competitive Third Strike, and I was walking into something that was already a thing, that had an ecosystem and an established hierarchy. And I walked into that, and I had to learn, and I think playing catch up, and working hard, and having people who had my back early on, like you, Tony, and just like different people, like there are different people who contributed to, players like me, Ahmed, Nika getting good quick, and I go hard on that, because I do feel like anybody can do it, like anybody can work their way towards, being in a position to win, and that's all you can ask for a game like this, right? You just want to put yourself in a position to win. And I think, I kind of proved it to myself, in a sense, that you're able to work hard and, get to a spot where people expect you to win, and I just want, if people have that aspiration, it's not for everyone, but if people have that aspiration, don't want to be a hindrance at all. Like, I don't want people to I don't want to look back and be like, damn, that person had talent, and I could have, helped them keep their enthusiasm for the game, I just love this game. And no matter what I do, no matter what other games I play, I always find my way of coming back to this shit. Like, there's no, I don't have a replacement for this, and so I need this to keep going,
Speaking of expectations, I think it not too hot of a take to say that you were the favorite going into the Jazzy Brooklyn Auto-Qualifier. It was an entertaining event from what I saw. Shout outs to Steve and the entire crew at Brooklyn Games for being a constant supporter of Third Strike. I hope they are able to find a way to stay open and continue being an important part of the community, as well as Next Level too.
Mhm.
I think with all this stuff about the Evo Awards, I think kind of Henry got lost in the shuffle to me. I don't know.
I think I said next level.
Yeah. No. I'm not in your speech. We'll get to your speech later. But I just meant like in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think we need to more people need to kind of recognize, the all the hard work and the legacy that Henry has built going all the way back from, because you were talking about it, right? Your humble beginnings, which, by the way, we're not gonna kind of go too much into that. If anyone wants to know more about the history of, how Frankie got into the game, definitely listen to Wax's podcast. You were on Immune Experience podcast before. But yeah, I was just, we were thinking about just the New York scene, and yeah, and just not just Brooklyn games, but also all the other stuff like Next Level and Red Perry and stuff. And so it's, really great to see that scene continuing to keep it going. But yeah, going back to the auto-qual, I don't think it's too hot of a take to say that you were the favorite going in. And so just wanted to get your thoughts on that event. Shout out to Bunch for running the event, and always love me some Uncle Beast commentary. It's not for everyone, but it's acquired taste, if you will.
He's an artist.
Yeah, but yeah, what were your thoughts on the Jazzy Brooklyn Auto-Qualifier? And anything, right? The event, your play, whatever. Yeah.
It was good, man. I think it was nice to see a lot of old faces again. I think that's the best part of that auto qualifiers in general, where it's just that you see people pop out because, the prize is big. It's a flight, and it's hotel, and it's an opportunity to go and compete, at the national tournament for this game, the Jazzy's become, so it's always fun to go to any auto qualifier. And that's why, I encourage people, if you're around an auto qualifier, to just go, because you never know who you're gonna see at these events, right? Like, you know, Poe went to the one, to the NorCal one. He wasn't expecting to see, Mopreme, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy, right? Like, it's just like, you wouldn't think, but that's the joy of going to an offline event. You never know who you're gonna meet. And for me, it's the same thing. Coming from, like you said, I think, I think it was pretty, like, it's not crazy to say that I was like the favorite going in. And so when you have that kind of on your back, in a sense, like, you're the favorite to win the tournament, like, your preparation has to be even tighter than it usually is, because everybody is gunning for you the day of, and whoever takes the time to prepare, they're preparing for you. So, with that in mind, I was very focused on the Ryu matchup because, Bubbles, the fucking dungeon, round stealer that he is, dealing with him is always scary. It's never easy. And then Daisuke, I knew he was gonna come too, and I was worried about that. And then once I heard the Texas guys was coming, I was like, shit, Wax always gives me trouble. So I'm like, fuck, it's just all these people that, you have prior experience against, that they're experienced tournament players, and they're coming for an important tournament. So with that, I was practicing like crazy, quietly, just trying to, do what I do, which is just drill everything, all the basics over and over again. And then, getting into the nitty gritty of certain matchups, focusing on situational stuff. And I think, the hard work, you know, early on maybe made the tournament a little bit easier for me than it, it then it might have appeared that it could have been, and I think that was just the preparation that kind of went into it.
During the event, were you more or less just kind of locked in, or did you take the time to kind of watch other players? And because we kind of started the podcast talking about how giving you are with your time
Mhm.
to new players and up and coming players. And so I was just wondering, during the event, were you kind of keeping an eye out? Like, obviously it helps because, these are players that you might meet in the actual tournament, but were there any performances that you thought were standout performances
Mm.
at the auto call from some of the other players?
Yeah, I think it's funny because every time I see him play, I get surprised, but I shouldn't at this point. But Jab, man, like his Hugo is just he's good, and he got good so quick, and it's just like what the fuck, like you're gonna have to eventually deal with him in a bracket, right? And that's scary. Like he's a tough out for anyone. But I just think just the play of all the Texas guys, honestly, too, because they came. It's always hard to travel. Like it's an underrated thing to like travel across, time zones and to like put in a good performance on all of them. You know, all of their top guys who came like made it to top 8. And they made it interesting like in all their games. So it's always fun to watch people from a different region with their styles come in and like perform well. You always want to see that. Proud of, Envy-san, of course, proud of, Poe for making it, to top 8. Bubbles did his thing against Dice Gate too. That was, awesome to see. So just, I think the quality of play was high across the top 8, which is just what I look at it as a competitor. Maybe it's not in my best interest that everybody plays well, but I care about this game as like a creator also, and also, somebody who wants to see the game grow. And as a product, I look at top 8s as a product and tournament top 8s as an entertainment thing. Like I want to see sick plays. I want to see a good product for top 8. So it was just nice to see everybody playing near the top of their levels, and watching it, because it was entertaining for me. Like you say, for me, it's good to watch the games and to not be so locked into your own performance, because it kind of eases your nerves a little bit. Like you can focus on other things and stay locked into the event that way. Like as a spectator, as somebody who was just enjoying the matches, it was a lot of fun. It was just high level shit, and that's all I ever want to see.
Yeah, I like your point about seeing top 8 as a product. The mission of Jazzy since day one has been the same, to get more people to play Third Strike, and so it really is rewarding to see the quality of play in these top 8s, and I think it kind of speaks to the importance of a game like Third Strike having its own platform, regardless of how many people enter a tournament or how big the audience is. Um, obviously we want to try and grow the audience. We want more people to respect the game and what it takes to be good at the game. But just kind of like, looking at the two top 8s so far in the auto qualifiers, Jazzy Brooklyn auto qualifier, then the Jazzy Magitech, I think the quality of play was excellent. And just a real quick story about Jab. I think might have been last year's finale. Like a player is legit when so I had first time I ever did EX Flying Viper on this dude. He red parried in 360. Like first time. It wasn't even like, oh, you do that move, Newton? I'm gonna be ready the next time. Like the first time I did it, he red parried. I'm like, all right. All right, the game's gonna be all right. And yeah, and that's a testament, like you said. Like I'm glad that you gave, that you shouted out the Texas crew, because they got some good guidance out there, some good teachers, and it showed. And just also your point about going to another place, like traveling to play in a competitive event is one thing, but traveling to New York to play a competitive event is another thing. Like I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Texas guys had ever been to New York, but like if you've never been, like even Brooklyn, right? Like where like the area of Brooklyn, and again we're kind of talking New York talk here. I guess I'm getting kind of nostalgic about New York, but yeah, like it's like you and I know that like the general area that Brooklyn Games is in is maybe one of the tamer areas of Brooklyn, right? But like to someone who's never been in that environment, like having to like go there and then compete, and and I guess that's another testament to Brooklyn Games, how inviting that venue is and how inviting the scene is. Let's talk a little bit more about the New York Third Strike scene. Right off the heels of the New York Auto Qual, you had Denjin Showdown.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kirishiro for arranging to have Cooney come out to Brooklyn games, and y'all put him through the ringer. Y'all.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if that was like by design, but the first thing I think of, again, kind of thinking nostalgic, that wasn't the first time we invited a high-profile Denjin player to come play in New York. So like I kind of saw Denjin Storm Showdown as like it was almost like the second coming of like 3S Fight Club, right? When we invited Vinal and RKF to come. But yeah, tell me a little bit about Denjin Storm Showdown, how that experience was. I know you were only able to, kind of attend the your set. But yeah, you guys really put Cooney through the ringer, and had him play a lot of matches. So what was your thoughts on the event as a whole?
Like a dirty mule, bro. We put the chum bucket on his ass. This motherfucker was a prisoner in there. We had him chained up to that bitch for like 48 hours straight, dog. 72. Nah, he was playing for a while. It was fun, man. Like when Joshua told me that he was gonna bring out, Cooney and, there might be a second person, whatever, I was excited. I was like, yeah, just let me know when. And then, you know how things go. He sets it up for way back, and then the weekend comes, and then I have to work all weekend. Like that weekend I went to a Special Olympics event, as a coach, and I couldn't not go to that, like we've been practicing all season, and so I couldn't not go. So the plan was for me to headline with him on Friday, but that I was leaving to, upstate Friday morning. So there was no way I could make that. So we made some arrangements. I was able to play him early on in the week. And I think to me that makes the win that much more sweeter, because I just feel like, he was fresh, he touched down straight from, like Japan. He had his online experience, shout out to Boa. And but he was fresh. He was fresher on the day that I played him, and so it meant more for me to try to avenge my loss to him from Canada Cup. It was a big deal for me. I was preparing for that matchup a lot, and I was like thinking about, I don't want to get into like too many technical things, but it was just a matchup that I was looking forward to playing, and it was fun because I remember when we got, Vanal and RKF for the first time, and just the excitement that people get playing against Japanese players. They're the all-stars of this game, right? And so it's always, and even though, there are competitors, and I like to look at, the top American players as being on a similar footing to them. It drives in, engagement in the game from the scene, no matter what. When these guys visit, people want to come and play them, like they want to experience it. And so it was fun watching everybody kind of get their shot at it. And, to say that the event was electric is obviously too easy of a pun. I'm not gonna say so. I'm not gonna say it without saying it. I just said it. But it was fun, man. It was fun to watch because, just like we said, right? Top eights events, we should approach them like they're like products, right? Of spectacles. And so I was watching from Friday on as a spectator. I was a stream monster. And so it was like, I can't tell you how the event went because I wasn't there, but if you're watching it, it was a beautiful event. And if you weren't there and you could have been there, it was silly. Like, you should have gone there if you are even remotely interested in Third Strike. Like, there were Street Fighter 4 players on the day that I went, like, watching us play. There was just random, like Auto Demon, he was there. And so just shout out to like Bunch and for everyone that was involved in it. Shout out obviously like to Rami, but I think, and I don't want to sound like too negative about what that means, that it took, flying out a Japanese player to like make the New York Third Strike scene kind of exciting. But if that's just the reality of it, then I don't know, like we'll take it from there. But I know that, um, from all the practice that bunch, we've been arranging kind of meetups, with a few of the New York players, just trying to get some serious sessions going. And, we've been doing so. We've been pretty consistent. We've been videotaping, like kind of like watching and trying to critique, everybody's play and just try to like elevate everybody. So it's kind of good watching that work pay off in a sense, right? Because I don't think that tournament is as competitive as it turned out to be had it not been for all of those like sessions, right? And I know, Bubbles was the highest placing, American at the event, and he hadn't been necessarily involved in the sessions themselves because it didn't work out for him, but he's been in all the talks, right? So he's involved in all of the critiquing and all that stuff. And so he's hearing all these things. And so I just think that having that kind of cohesion has been really big for New York. And, Bunch has kind of filled in a void, that your absence created. Just having somebody who's just, organizationally, sound, and who has, the product in mind when doing these events. He's been pivotal, instrumental for us, like to continue, you know, kind of building momentum. And I'm just excited, man. I think this is the best shape that New York Dirt Strike has been in a long, long, long time. I'm just excited that like I've been an active part of it, because I've been guilty of not being a part of it, and I'm trying to, I'm changing that. And it's just nice to kind of see it in this new era a little bit.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of continue this topic of Japanese players coming to events and being that draw. Historically, that hasn't been what Jazzy has done. Jazzy has, I don't think it's any secret, Jazzy has tried to take care of its own, if that makes sense. How would you feel? Again, not saying that this is in the cards or anything, but how would you feel about, because Jazzy really tries to focus on the competitive integrity of the game. We do want to take care of our own players because it's nice for players to be able to have that experience being on that stage and competing. But what do you feel about a Japanese player coming to the finale? Because again, Jazzy has historically been kind of like an American thing. From the beginning, we never claimed to be anything else. We've been flying Japanese players to events for years.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's been the draw. Well, how would you feel if that happened at Jazzy? Especially considering how Jazzy is structured as far as, it's not just one event. This is a whole season. Right. And people are competing to earn points, trying to qualify through auto-quals. But how would you feel if a Japanese player was, quote unquote, flown or, to the finale to compete?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not thrilled with that idea personally. I like that Jazzy is a national thing. And it's funny because I just said that, Japanese players are a draw for events. And I think that like communities can find a way to do that, some of the bigger ones anyway. But I do personally enjoy the idea of like Jazzy being kind of like an American like national thing. Um, I think if you would have asked me, prior to the second season, yeah, the second season, I would have been like, it's gonna ruin kind of the integrity of the event in a way, because again, I'm looking at this as a product, right? And back a few years ago, I feel like almost any Japanese player coming in would have just watched the entire event, and it would have been minus a couple people. It would have been not competitive. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like I do think that, you know, very few players could just come over here and win very easily the way that they used to. But I think like there was a reason why people were kind of bummed that all those Japanese players came to that TFC the one time, because it just kind of turned it into here's my money Japan kind of event, like like a donation kind of a thing. And it kind of took away from the this is the American national eventness of what CFC was, and I just don't want it to get that way with Jazzy because it certainly feels that way, right? Like, it feels like Jazzy is it's independent thing, right? That is American. That the person who wins it is like the American champ. It feels like it has that feeling, and I think Japan has a good future now with kind of Evo Japan being like a home for the Third Strike national events in Japan. And so I feel like, you know, they're not losing out on anything by us maintaining the Jazzy event as something that's, you know, American, even though like there's nothing stopping them from joining the last chance qualifier, right? Like Niaba did it, right, and performed well. Issei did it, right? But he did it. Like Issei did it. Like he was already in the States and did it. Niaba came in on his own dime and chose to do it, right? Like it kind of lends like validity to the event that they're willing to come out on their own dime and do it. I think that's something separate from basically gifting them an auto qualifier and kind of like rolling the red carpet out. I think it's good and healthy that American Third Strike has its thing that's separate from you know Japan in a way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think I do agree with you that I wouldn't feel too good about Jazzy itself funding a Japanese player to come and compete at the finale, but kind of like Kirishiro is a great example, But if the community wants it, then there's no problem with that. It does seem like it would be more appropriate, to have, like, if the community wants a Japanese player at the finale,
Oh yeah,
then
you roll with what the people want.
yeah, then they should be the ones to kind of make that happen. Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of Evo Japan, I think you were alluding to the fact that Co-op Cup returns this year. It wasn't a thing last year, but it was a thing a year before at DreamHack.
Yeah, yeah,
Now it's back. Now it's part of Evo Japan.
yeah.
And when the announcement hit, I couldn't help but think about my one and only experience at Coop, back when Coop was a independent event or grassroots event, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
It's kind of getting hard and harder to kind of define what that means, right? Like what qualifies as a grassroots event. But that's definitely another conversation for another podcast. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Coop being part of Evolution now?
It's what's necessary to keep it going. So I'm for it. That's just the bottom line. Like, if, of course, I don't want it. Not that I don't want it to be involved in it, but if I liked it, I liked going to the convention hall where Third Strike is the only thing that's there, and the event is catered to Third Strike. I love that, obviously. But if I gotta, walk past a bunch of human size, fucking ramen mascots, in order to play in Co-op Cup, I'm gonna do it, bro. I love Co-op Cup. Like, I've been waiting for this to come back. And, you know, I think a lot of us in the scene have to kind of get over this idea that, you know, it can survive beyond, corporatization in a sense, like, especially in Japan where it's just getting harder and harder to do it on your own, Um, we've been able to do it on our, you've been able to do it on your own, in a sense, with a lot of support from different communities and like having a bunch of arcades involved and, but not, I don't think that ecosystem over there is set up for that, and I'm not gonna pocket watch like Matsuda-san. He's doing it for a reason, right? And if it has to come back in this capacity, like, yeah, man, pay for your fucking $90, whatever, 110 yen badge, and go like twerk with some cosplayers, bro. Like, if that's what we got to do to keep this shit going, I'm for it, And obviously it's too short notice, but if this becomes a thing where, yo, in May, expect for Co-op Cup to come back every May, then good. And, we'll plan for it or accordingly. But I'm just excited at the prospect of this thing returning on a yearly basis because there's there is no greater gift, to Evo than Third Strike has been. Like we just keep delivering, over and over again. And I just hope that like they keep it, I hope that this can create some kind of consistency where, people can plan their years accordingly, man. That's all I hope.
Just to be clear, are you attending Co-op Cup?
Not this year.
Okay.
I can't. It was just for notice.
Speaking of Evo again, I wanted to talk a little bit about your Evo speech. By the way, congratulations. I know that you
Thank you.
that you had mentioned in the speech that it felt kind of weird accepting an award for losing, and that's just kind of a testament to how fierce of a competitor you are. But you really made the most of your moment. To me, it was a heartfelt message, almost like a rallying cry, if you will. It was you kind of I could kind of tell that you were. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of projecting, but I could kind of tell that you were kind of seeing this speech as an opportunity to kind of get some things off your chest with in the few seconds that you had. But congratulations on winning those awards. But tell me a little bit about that speech and kind of what you talked about and kind of what led you to want to like kind of say what you did.
It's funny because like you prefaced it by saying it's because
Mhm.
I'm a competitor that I had to start that speech off that way. Like it wouldn't, and yeah, man, like it was weird. Like I got the email from the producers at Evo, and they said they wanted me to attend, and I didn't know I was gonna win. I didn't know exactly what I was gonna say when I got up there, but I had an idea that I needed to I needed to get off my chest that it didn't sit right with me that, I'm on a stage because I lost, right? Like I needed to get that off my chest because, I it's just like I said, it felt rotten, in a sense. But, at the same time, I've never, I felt like I needed to justify my place up there in a sense. And so, I know people who know the game will watch that set between me and Hayao and know it was a tight set. It was close, right? And, it could have gone either way, and but it doesn't matter to me because I know the perception of it is just that I got my ass kicked and just like this American guy who got his ass kicked. And, I just wanted to get that off my chest. As far as everything else, like, I just felt I came into the game at the worst time in a sense because, um, it was right when the game was kinda shot in the head, and kinda just left, left to die, and I felt, and I mean that, I mean that because I don't know, I feel like Third Strike's always been the stepchild of the FGC in a sense where, the other games kinda have a similar player base, and the Third Strike players have always been a bit unique, and Third Strike players tend to play Third Strike and nothing else, and whereas the other games, they tend to kinda have some overlap, and it just seems that they couldn't they couldn't wait to get rid of Third Strike in a sense, right? And Street Fighter 4 was that kinda opportunity to change the main Street Fighter game to that, and, it wasn't even given a chance to continue, And I think it needed to die at that moment for it to receive the love that it's receiving now. Like because, like there needs to be some like degrees of separation between when you last experienced the game and what it's turned into for you to appreciate it. And I'm sorry, but there's that that Friday night or Saturday, I think it was Saturday night. That Saturday night like main event is not going to be topped. Like it's just not going to happen. Like I don't care what game you put, it's just not going to happen where a game that was kind of the bottom of the finals list or whatever, headline Saturday instead of Sunday, and it created the biggest, moment that happened at Evo, just straight up. And um it just this is the type of game that keeps delivering. And like I'm happy that I was able to kind of be a part of the moment that delivered once again, exactly 20 years later, from then, from the Daigo moment. And so, I just kind of took it as an opportunity to just shout out, the places off the top of my head really that kept it alive, and that's why I made it a point to say next level, right? Because I think Next Level doesn't get as much love as the other retro spots because it's been, it's always embraced the new games as well. It's a card shop. Like Henry needs to make money, so he has the cards. He always has like the newer games, and Third Strike is there. It's in the basement. Where we belong, baby, with the fucking cabs in our own little island down there. It's a great spot, and so I just made it a point to just shout out, Henry and Next Level for like doing their thing, all the places off the top of my head, because without them and whatever communities are there, putting love into the game, we don't get to this point where I believe that we don't get to this point where Third Strike kind of gets invited back and it creates that moment. You know what I mean? It would have came back regardless because 20 years later and they need one of the retro games to headline. They would have chose it anyway, but it probably would have ended up being something like it was before, where it's just like a couple of Japanese guys dominating and all the American players kind of sucking, right? But it wasn't that. And, without all those communities keeping the game alive, there's no way that Resolve is in a position where he beats Shirakuro to make top 8 or top 6, or that I beat Tominaga and Rao to get into top 6, like that. Without the game's constant, support from all of these arcades and from the community, there's no way that we get into that position. So, I just felt that that wasn't my moment at all. Like that was my moment to kind of give back to the community finally and acknowledge the hard work that everybody else has done. Because without that, we don't have a game. We don't have anything. That's kind of where I was coming from with that speech.
I wanted to talk a little bit about just your Evo experience. So, the first thing that came to my mind when you lost that set against Hayao, and this is no hyperbole whatsoever, and this is to me like the curse of Third Strike. To me, the curse of Third Strike is what ifs, because in a game so deep and rich, you're always afterwards, after the fact, always asking yourself, what if? I always mention how like I was there at Evo moment 37, and I remember what the Third Strike players were talking about after the Daigo parry was what other shit could have gone down, what other timelines could we have found ourselves in. And it's always that way with Third Strike, and I feel like it's why I love it, and it's also why I despise it, because because the game is so deep and so rich and there's so many possibilities. It just kind of fucks with your head a little bit, you know what I mean? And you're just always looking back, and I swear, the first thing that came to mind when I saw you lose Hayao was Frankie could have won the whole thing. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, but who won? Who won? Evo.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Frankie can beat MOV. Issei's gonna be tough, but especially when we think about the setups and everything of that, was that at all in your mind too? Because like I swear, man, like when you lost Hayao, I was like,
I know.
like Frankie could have won this whole thing. Like, did that at all cross your mind? Or
Dude, I got to the back. And that was the first thing that I told Poe. dude, that was I just in my head, I was like, dude, I haven't played a Hugo like this since I played YSB like fucking 7 years ago. Like, and it felt like I just got to get through this. And I know what I need to do. I just got to get through this. And Chirithy, I love him.
No disrespect. Curity, super strong player.
No, not at all. I just like the matchup. I
Yeah.
like the Chun match.
Yeah.
Feel
Yeah.
confident. So I'm like, okay. And then Issei, I've been playing, Young a lot, because, Lloyd and I practice.
But Issei always has not to interrupt you, but Issei always has that knack of, like of rising to the occasion, right? Like he's always gonna like pull something and like, that's what makes him one of the greatest, right?
No doubt. For me, I was like the whole my preparation for Evo was so like Yun Chun centric that I just had so much confidence against the rest of the field.
And would MOV have used Elena against you in grand finals? Hell no. Oh, hell no.
I was playing Alina the whole tournament, and when I sat down with him,
Yes.
played him, and he went straight to Chun.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I knew it. I was like, and bro, I'm so pissed that we didn't get to play on stream, me and MOV the first time. Because bro, when I tell you I've never played in closer rounds ever. Like every round that we played went to last hit. So it was just like, okay, I'm understanding what's going on. And a lot of those rounds, I was coming back from a large deficit. So it was like I felt like, okay, I can get him, and he's scared. Like in the sense where like, okay, I'm getting him in these in this release valve kind of movements in the match where like I'm winning the interactions. So I just need to do it just one more time, just like Kyle. Just needed to get one more of those, right? So yeah, man, that shit immediately. And I forgot who I was talking to about this, but it's something about me personally that I can't lie to myself, right? It's like my confidence is usually directly correlated to how much I prepared, right? I'm not like other players. They're players that, God bless them, like they cannot practice a lick and go into an event and be super confident and be like, okay, I just know what this guy's gonna do and I'm gonna fuck him up. Shout out to Ahmed, because that's how he is. He doesn't practice. He goes to the fucking hookah lounge, you know, before, he found, his beautiful girlfriend. He was getting asses like put on him and shit, in the strip club. That was his life. And he would show up to an event and be confident that he was going to win. Like that was, so I'm not like that. Like I don't have that kind of like confidence. I need to prove it to myself, and so I do it through preparation. And I don't think it's just delusion, but the moment it happened, I was like, fuck, dude, I didn't even say I could have won. I said I would have won. Like, that's how confident I was in the rest of the matches. Like, it was like, it's Chun Yun Chun. I've been putting in like fucking 9 hours, about 9 hours every 2 days. Like, let's be fair, like 9 hours every 2 days in these matchups and like the little things and like just really trying to nail those matches down. And yeah, man, I fell short, but that's probably my biggest regret of the whole thing. It wasn't like losing in the fashion that I lost. It was just losing, period. Like I'd rather it happen this way than I lost on some anticlimactic fucking mash jab or some shit. Like, it's like less embarrassing, but it's also more painful in a sense, right? Like the way that I rationalize it, and that's the only way to rationalize if you're gonna survive something like this, is like I forced Hayao to do something fucking incredible for him to win, right? It's like I forced it out of him, and that's how I have to think about this. Otherwise, I'll go fucking insane. But like I really felt like I just needed to get past Hugo, and I would have won. I really do feel that way.
Yeah, and I don't want to like make you feel like shit. I just want to be real because that just was like the first thought in my mind, and I'm happy that you told me that was the same thing that happened. That drew your mind too.
Immediately, I was like, I would have won.
Yeah, because out of all of the people in top 8, it was like really you and Hayao that seemed most comfortable with those setups, and so like that might have been able to play in your favor, especially with MOV as well. It just seemed like you and Hayao seemed like you were the most comfortable with those playing on those setups, and yeah, I just thought, wow, what a timeline, right? Um, and it's tough, right? We never want to like dwell on the past or try to be, have regrets, but it's reality. Sometimes those are the things that push us.
That's how I look at it. Like it's not it's you know, it's always gonna be painful, but it's it's what's keeping me it's what kept me practicing, like afterwards. It's like, okay, I just I just have to be better, bro. That's it. But yeah, man, that shit I'm not gonna say it haunts me to this day, but I think about it a lot, and I think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And whatever, if it's gonna take another 20 years for me to get another opportunity to win an Evo, I guess I'll just have to wait my 20 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, you deserved that spot definitely, and I knew you would at least make the stage. I don't know how. I just kind of knew, and I think a lot of it is just because I know how much preparation you put into the game. I know how much you love the game and how seriously you take the game, and like I said earlier in the conversation, I can't think of a better representative for our scene than you. And so, yeah, like talk to me a little bit about kind of, the post Evo, your post Evo tournament experiences. I know you went to TSB, Third Strike Battle. And so tell me a little bit about your experience in France, and just kind of how it was like to play the French Third Strike players.
It was fun, man. Like it felt like it was interesting because I didn't know what to expect when I got over there. I knew that they were passionate, about the game, and but I didn't know how the event itself was gonna feel. And dude, just so much respect goes to like the event runners, and it just was such a professional event, and it was just a good product, man. And I keep going back to that word, but it was just, it was a good, and it was like an honor to be a part of such a professional, you know, event. And one thing that took me by surprise a little bit was that, in a sense, that's like their Euro Cup, because it's like all the best players from all the different, like European countries going there. And I didn't look at it that way until I got there. And then I really didn't look at it that way until I was on stream, and it felt like a fucking soccer match, like where everybody's like stomping on the ground, and they're, every time, in between rounds, and when somebody's doing some sick shit, it's like, and man, they just love the game so much. Like it didn't matter who was doing what. Obviously, they're gonna cheer on like their countrymen, but it was just a passion. Like when I was doing sick shit, they were like, "Whoa, like that was great too," So it was just such a passionate environment to be in, and it's so hard to describe it. It's not like going over to the West Coast and like, or, me going over to the West Coast and it being hostile or whatever, them coming over here and being, it didn't feel like that. It was just passion, just pure passion for the game. Like they just loved what was going on the screen at all times. And like the way that they ran the event was super smooth. And just again, I was watching the top eights for my own, the top eight matches and the teams matches, like for my own like prep. And it was such a beautiful event, man. It was like a good product to watch. It was just good, man. It was just, I can't wait to go back, and I encourage more American players to go back. I mean, to go there at all if they haven't been. I mean, Lyon, France, beautiful. Like I loved it over there. So, and another thing, another appreciation for people who travel and play. It was hard. It's not easy. That was like probably my toughest tournament, just physically, I was exhausted from the tip, and just like having to, you know, find ways to win matches that weren't comfortable. And, it was just good, man. It was a fun event. It was a very useful experience for me. And I think it got, it made me kind of appreciate the thing that we do a little bit more, because, I mean, if you contextualize it or just say the sentence out loud, it shouldn't make sense. Like I'm like 10 hours, a 10-hour flight away from home to play Third Strike, you know? It's just weird. It's like it shouldn't make sense, but it does. And when you're there, you understand it, and I just encourage everyone who can possibly make that trip to do it. It's a beautiful thing.
For some of the people listening to this podcast who may not be too familiar with the French Third Strike community, who were some of the players that stood out to you when you were over there competing?
Yeah, I gotta think a little. I think um Yaz is always crazy to watch. He's always fun to watch. Obviously Nia Bond. Obviously the legend Billy Kane. You know, it was great being able to play him. That was fun. Um you know, I obviously TM went and Amy Morrow went too, which was good. It was like fun, you know, watching them compete and being able to play with them too. It was great. Cartola from Spain was very impressive to watch. Um, there was just there's so many people, bro. Um, I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm pretty sure I am, but Folio, I think his name is. It's Folio. I don't know how to pronounce it. I know how it's spelled, but it was the fucking 9-year-old fucking going around. Dude, he was killing shit. He was scary. He was a scary out. He got Yaz in teams, like straight up. He did it. So that was so encouraging to watch. Like watching the next generation of Third Strike
We need,
growing up in the scene and like in the mix. It was fun, dude.
we need to do a first to 10. You know, that kid versus the nom. You know.
Oh, I got the Frenchie. So
Oh, what? Oh, okay. This
I love
podcast is getting spicy now. I like it.
yeah, well, I got the Frenchie, man. That kid captured my heart.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Play the hip hop. So
Yeah. Uh, I never want to like generalize a scene, but like one of the things that I noticed, because I had, you know, the fortunate opportunity to go to France and play a lot of those players that you mentioned, back when their arcade street was open. And one of the things that I noticed after watching them and competing with them is a lot of the top French players, they have this poise about them when they're playing, right? They never get, at least outwardly, emotional. Even someone like Yaz is, I think, is a very emotional player, but like when he's actually playing,
yeah,
they're just like stone faced. They just have this ability to just lock in, and they just look so poised when they play. I don't know if you noticed that about their top players, but yeah, they just seem really solid, and you know, they don't get too high, they don't get too low. Why do you think that is? Like, is it something about their style of play or how they approach the game? Because we're rowdy Americans. We get very emotional, some of us, but yeah.
yeah, it's weird because like people watch like how emotional Yaz is in between rounds,
Yeah.
but that's where it is.
Yeah.
That's where it starts and that's where it fucking ends. He doesn't bring it into the next game. You know, he's like very. I think they're all like that, and it's probably a cultural thing. I do think it's probably like a um. I don't know. It has to be something cultural. I can't put my finger on it, but I think there is like a I don't know, like a dignity to it, you know, of like kind of keeping, you know, it's like part of the sportsmanship of it in a way, right? Like not losing your mind in the middle of it or like, you know, gesturing to the crowd and doing all this. Like, I can't believe that the button I pressed came out and the opponent parried it. What the fuck? Like, whatever, like, whatever it is, I feel like we're probably more into our feelings about that. Another thing also, now I'm thinking about it now, and I kind of came up with something, and now it's kind of making sense. The I feel like the American third strike players, like a lot of us, we have this we have like a thing where, and it's something that we all have to kind of go through, and it's a wall that we all have to break through. But we think of our play and the match as a canvas, you know, as like our chance to do what it is that we want to do. And when the opponent interrupts that, it's like an affront to the art that we're trying to put out. You know, it's like it's very weird. But that's like the easiest way that I can kind of like analogize this. But for the French people, I really do think that they kind of just view it as more of a sport, kind of like more of just a competition, and like, it's not necessarily this art piece that we like to think that the game can be sometimes. Like, we just want to do sick shit and that's it. I do just think that they care about the result, about like just winning and, doing it. And I feel like that's why they're probably able to not be so emotional when things kind of go wrong. Like, you kind of have to learn as a competitor that if you're in a competition, things are going to probably go wrong way more than you're comfortable with. And you have to get comfortable with that, right? You have to get comfortable with the idea that shit is going to go wrong a lot of the time. How do you respond to that? Um, Not that they don't go through it, but that's probably what I can see. 'Cause I noticed it. I noticed when it's like stupid shit that we get mad at, you know? Like, it's like we get mad at the dumbest shit. Like, oh, I attacked him on my wake up and he parried it. Like, well, that's the fucking game. Like, what do we,
Yeah.
it's just like little shit like that that I don't know. I feel like they don't really care about that kind of stuff. They just trying to win the match.
Yeah.
Or just, we're trying to like, I don't know, critique the game while we're playing it. It's very strange.
Yeah. That's a great point you make about treating Third Strike like an actual sport. Because in like an actual sport, um, sometimes emotions can work against you, and it's who can stay focused, who can stay poised. I also think a lot of the top Third Strike players in France, like when I see them play, like I noticed this, in your set versus Billy Kane, like they all have like a plan. They all have like a game plan, and like they're gonna stick to it, right? And there's something said to be adapt, to be able to adapt. But that can be part of the game plan too, right? Understanding the different ways that you may be forced to adapt. And I just feel like the French try to kind of impose that game plan. Like they all are very knowledgeable about what their characters are capable of and how the matchups work. And that's kind of like what you said. That's kind of a key to winning, right? Oftentimes it comes down to who has the best game plan, I guess, going into the game. So this season, the last Jazzy Auto-Qualifier is going to be at Arcade. You were there at Third Strike Open, where you did very well for yourself. And so, tell me a little bit about Third Strike Open, because I was watching on the stream and it looked like a really great event. It was also an event where some Japanese players, were invited, Genki, Shinta, among others. And so, yeah, tell me a little bit about your experience at the Third Strike Open.
Yeah, man, you're always a little bit weary, when you go into an event at a new venue and, you just don't know how you're going to be received, and so that was my biggest apprehension, like going into it was how is the event, like, is it going to be comfy to play there or, so, but dude, just again, it's that passion, man. Like that shit bleeds through. You can't even hide it, even a little bit. Like it was just everything. They had a lot of cabs. They were all spaced out properly, so it was a lot of it was very comfortable to be in there, just from a like spatial point of view. Then they had like their new stuff too, like the newer games for people who just wanted to go in and play anyway. The owners were awesome. They were just attentive the whole time and just really accommodating. And we felt I know I felt really welcome just to be there. And it's a thing. Just it's a blessing to be able to go into a spot and just focus on playing because you're just so comfortable. It's like the hierarchy of needs kind of thing. It's like like you're much able to focus on the task and to just enjoying the game when like the basics are covered, and it's like the setups are there, the people running the tournament are attentive, the owners are welcoming. Let's tip the ball, like let's fucking go, right? Like let's play. And it just felt like pure Third Strike, like there was no frills. It was just everybody playing a bunch of games, man. And it felt good coming off of Evo, where it was kind of not that, where it's a lot of frills, and it's, and it's a lot of red tape, Um, it was, Third Strike Open was just a nice kind of throwback, huge open bracket style event. And having the Japanese players, like I said, it always just brings out the excitement, from everyone. And it meant a lot to me for the American players to do well against, Genki and Shinta and, everybody else who made it out. It was just important. Because I don't know, I feel like maybe this is another curse of like kind of being competitive, but you're always like looking for more inspiration, always. So I don't know. I have a chip on my shoulder always, and it's like, yeah, you did well. Americans did pretty well at Evo, but those setups, right? Like those are setups that did it. They're not comfortable. They don't know what that is. They put, I'm like, all right, well, let's just see at the Open. Like that was the kind of the dialogue between me and Nika and the rest of the people that were like kind of in the server. It was like, let's see, like if you're curious or if you're questioning it, you'll see. Like you'll see in October. Like that's how we were kind of approaching it. And I think that's why being able to win teams was really important for us. Being able to win the exhibition was important for us, and for 3 Americans to make top 3, in a field with, really strong Japanese players, it meant a lot. And especially off of that. And so, it just felt good. It just felt good to be able to validate the scene, because I feel like, especially as an American third strike player, you're not only fighting the players, you're not only playing against the players, but you're also fighting a narrative constantly that third strike is not an American game and that we should have stopped playing a long time ago. And it feels good to kind of incrementally prove people wrong about that, right? It kind of started a little bit at Evo. It continued, through the Third Strike Open. Um, it it somehow continued through TSB with, TM and neither TM nor Mimura making top 3 there, right? It's like been all Westerners, right? And then, um, at this Denshin Showdown thing that just passed, I was able to beat Kuni in our first attempt, and dude, Bubbles made it super interesting, you know, and that's all I've ever wanted to prove, was that we'll make it interesting, that we're capable of winning, that we're not just gonna get bulldozed all the time, that you can be good at the highest level no matter where you play, you know. So I don't know. That was just kind of my takeaway from that kind of stretch, that for the 6 month stretch of Third Strike, where I was fortunate enough to be a part of all of it. It was feels just a blessing. After spending so much time playing the game and practicing, it just feels like a blessing. I won't take it for granted, like being able to be involved in all that.
So it's going to be the last Auto-Qualifier. It's going to be happening in May. Indulge me in a little cooler talk. Who do you like qualifying out of the arcade Jazzy event?
It depends. I think if it's all Texas, and let's say there are a couple stragglers from SoCal, let's say, and a couple stragglers from the New York City, Dallas, Fort Worth area. There's, I think, Nika, man. I think if Nika decides to go to that one, he can take it. I think if Yuki decides to come out, he could take it. I think if 5-Star decides to come out, he can take it. There's just so many talented people, but I gotta put my money on the OGs, on the people who've been there before.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of end this conversation by kind of asking your thoughts on the future of the Third Strike scene. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, right? The game is subtitled "A Fight for the Future," and you've kind of already talked in the past, in this conversation alone, about why you continue to play the game. You just have this love for the game. That is, pretty apparent. But kind of going back to your comment about this blank canvas, how would you like, or do you have like in mind kind of a vision of what the future of the competitive third strike scene looks like? Because, one of the things that kind of blows my mind, I was talking to some of the other guys on the Jazzy board, and I was saying, wow, we've been doing this for almost 7 years. Like, it's just crazy to think about how long we've been doing this. Things come and go. I'm a firm believer nothing lasts forever. And I'm so happy to see guys like Cedric and Wax. Was so happy for them, for their success for 3S Open. Seeing this new generation of not just players, but also organizers. I kind of just started out as a fan, when I first went to Family Fun, and I just kind of like what you're talking about, seeing these players take this game so seriously and playing at a high level, or at the time would be considered a high level. But yeah, like, how do you kind of see the future of competitive third strike? Because I think we had a conversation a while ago. I think you had told me that you would love for the third strike scene to be like the smartest fighting game scene. Do you still feel that way, or do you have like another in the vision of like competitive third strike? Like, how do you kind of see the future for our game?
It's weird because, like, I think if you had asked me this question back when, we were still going to Co-op Cup in 2017, 2018, it would have been like who the fuck kind of cares? Let's just keep going to Co-op Cup, and it is what it is,
Mhm.
because we were still the youngest people playing, in a sense, right? We were still the youngest generation kind of coming up. There were stragglers, right, who kind of picked up the game late and who got good. People who were uniquely interested in this game in like an isolated way and decided to insert themselves into the scene. But you asking me that now, I know I joked about it earlier, but like, dude, there's nothing that makes me more inspired than watching the Nam, you know, on the hitbox. Like, to me, that is the future of the game in a sense, right? It's like this kid who's way too good, too quick. Like, he's just too good, too quick. And it inspires me because it makes me feel like this shit could keep going, like, for another 10, 15, 20 years easily. If talented people like that come on board pretty much through their own volition and get good because of the resources that kind of the community has put together to like up until this point, right? I don't think people get so far if Nika doesn't make his videos, if like I don't make my videos, if there isn't like so much footage out there and so many talks. Like, dude, like the weird off, yeah, like the one-off podcast that I do on my channel, I still get people coming up to me at different events that I wouldn't even think of listening to it, and they're like, bro, we love it, like, and it's like, oh shit, you really don't understand what kind of impact you're having by creating content. And so it's like the way that I think that this thing continues to grow is we keep we have to make content, like we have to continue, putting this game in a place where people can easily find it. They can find the information that they need to find easily, and they can practice their way up to getting to a point where they can enjoy the game at a similarly high level, and how does that look? I mean, it just looks like how it looks now, but just with more newer players, with like the Nam being, the veteran, right? Like with Boa and the Nam and all of those being the old guys, and they're helping out like like the newer kids that are interested in it, right? Like, it's just it's just crazy. Like, you don't understand the impact that the little things that you do have until you see players like that come out of nowhere and be so good, and it's like just crazy to me, man. Like Resolve, dude, another fucking genius, bro. Like jab, so good, so quick. Like, and it's just, it's as like you said, like as an educator, I'm used to dealing with, with kids and like with people who like sponges kind of, and like seeing that growth. I work with like kindergarten and first graders now, and from September to now, like March is like night and day. Like we take little nomads and like turn them into into people who could communicate. It's like fun, and it's crazy, and like seeing that kind of growth mindset, kind of happening in real time every single day, 5 days a week. I think it gives me kind of unique hope, that we can take whatever it is that we want and put it wherever it is that we want to put it, and I think the future of it just looks exactly how it looks now, but just bigger and easier to get into and more inviting. And the events are just more pronounced, and just better, and if it looks like how it looks this year for the rest of, my life, then I think we did the thing. I think we achieved the mission, you know. And Bunch talks a lot about that, like mission, like what's the mission? And that's it. It's just keeping this thing growing, even by one player every single year. Like I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely co-sign on that. Frankie, thanks again for sitting down with me and talking shop. It's always a pleasure when we can reconnect and talk about the game. You know what you know how I feel about you. And so you already know. And so looking forward to seeing you at the finale. And yeah, just, good luck on your training. Hope winning the first one isn't going to ice you too much for the finale. Hopefully the New York scene and all your other partners are keeping you sharp. But yeah, thanks again for stopping by. And, again, if you want to see Frankie in action, definitely consider signing up for Jazzy Finale Weekend 2025. It all goes down June 20th, 22nd. And so appreciate the time again, Frankie. And I'll see you at the finale.
Pleasure, bro. Salute.